So I was going to plan on doing a video tomorrow, but after seeing this article on Israel Hayom, or Israel Today, owned by and operated by Sheldon Adelson's widow, I saw some of the article and it infuriated me. It absolutely infuriated. Now, I knew from the beginning, 6-7 years ago, whenever I first started posting YouTube videos, that nobody would listen to me. When I say nobody, I mean next to zero. I knew that nobody would listen to me. So we're going to go ahead and get started reading this, and I'm not going to read the whole article because you have to become a member, and I'm not going to become a member. I'm not paying money to these people. I don't charge people for telling you the truth. So I'm not going to pay them to tell me their opinion. So this article posted today by Stan Goodnow. As the day closes out, the light fades and the sun drops ever more quickly until suddenly it slips below the horizon, then darkness falls. The coronavirus came out of the blue. Lockdown ghost cities, corpse-filled hallways, acres of ready graves and flaming funeral pyres, massive unemployment, emotional stress that scarred the billions. No one, least of all, the myriad teachers with prophetic callings, foretold that one, warned us of that one. Russia's rape of Ukraine likewise came out of nowhere, and now we are looking at a Europe we thought we'd never see again. Are you kidding me? Who is we? I've been since I started this YouTube video. I said over and over and over again that Europe, Western civilization, is going to come to a crashing and burning end. But did anybody listen? Columns of tanks, cities deliberately reduced to rubble, civilians cowering underneath. Rivers of refugees, the growing number of innocent, dead, pregnant women and children. No one, least of all, the myriad of teachers with prophetic callings, foretold this one, warned of this one. And I told my audience that I am never to be called a prophet, or that I am not a prophet, that I am not your teacher, I'm not your rabbi, I'm not your pastor, I'm not your anything. All I am is an Israel-centric, backwoods, uneducated Bible reader. That's it. That's all I am. I've said this many, many, many times. But to sit here and say that nobody, least of all the myriad teachers with prophetic callings, foretold this one, warned us of, that's a lie. That is a damn lie. Somebody did tell you, but you didn't listen. Let me show you proof. When was this? So I did a video, Russia-Ukraine conflict could bring prophetic nuclear war. The date was, I remember it, it was April 2021. He said nobody told him. That's a lie. I've got proof right here. So let's see. Where is it? One of these. April 7, Russia openly discusses tactical nukes. No, nobody warned you about that. Here it is. April the 1st. You see that? Now, I did get a few views there, but not near. Not near what should have been. But don't sit here and lie and say that nobody warned you of this. Because it's a lie. Do you see that date? Published April 1st, 2021. Russia-Ukraine conflict could bring prophetic nuclear war. And who was it that had been saying all this time that the world is going to end with a nuclear war? Now, I did not have as much information back then as I do now, but I did have enough information to prove that I did warn this world. But the world didn't listen. And I only warned the world using the words of the prophets and the apostles and Yehoshua himself. Right here in my comments, I find the potential tampering of the Nord Stream pipeline in the Baltic Sea very disturbing. These very same people are the ones pushing the global climate agenda. There appears to be suicidal. Listen to me. This was a year ago. Suicidal, genocidal mentality taking over the world that would coincide with scriptural passages in the prophets Haggai, Zechariah, and in Johannen's book of Revelation, or Jonah's book of Revelation. I've been warning about nuclear war more than a year ago. This is proof. And that's going to spell the end of the Gentiles. Want to go back some more? Let's go back a little bit more. See if we can find more of these videos. March 27. Nuclear destruction predicted in the book of Haggai. How Christianity became the great whore. Easter, the pagan queen of heaven. Celebrating Easter will get churches cast into the coming great tribulation. None of the other preachers have told you that, but this one did. I go into great detail what Easter is. And I expose one preacher who claims that the Christians will not suffer the Great Tribulation. And Pastor Hagee, he's one of them. They lie. And right here, I point out that Russia's patience with Israel has run out. So I have to ask a question then. If Russia's patience with Ukraine has run out, what do you think they're going to try to do to Israel? Oh, you Christians in Western civilization, you will join Russia in trying to thwart the Antichrist, as you say, who is the real Moshiach of Israel. You'll do it. In this video, salvation of Israel, a stumbling block to Christianity. In this particular video, the seventh trumpet to be blown during the Yemen Civil War. We haven't even gotten to the sixth one yet. I pointed this out. I've showed biblical proof. Israel shall be born again. And I can see all of you rapture preachers absolutely freak out over a statement like that. And what did Paul predict concerning the Gentile church? What was that? Would embrace the counterfeit gospel and counterfeit Messiah. What did the pastor's wife say? Christians don't what? Oh, don't believe in the Old Testament or the Tanakh or the prophets. In this particular video, Christianity is the reason for the Holocaust. I blame the cross for the Holocaust, and so do Christians. I proved that too. They admit it. That the sufferers of the Holocaust died under the cross. If I have enough time, I'll show that to you again. Supersessionism being the most damnable doctrine of all. Presidential blasphemy, pride before a fall. President Donald Trump, how he elevated to himself to, as they say, God level. And not a word was heard from you Christians in the United States of America. Not a word of outrage was heard. And this one right here, America's house is built on sand. All right. We'll go a little bit further back. We'll go into 2020. Hanukkah message from the prophet Haggai. The very same thing. And I posted Trump to host a big peace party at the White House. And I told you that this was a sign that something very bad was going to happen to the Gentiles. I told you. The rapture, the resurrection, and the regathering of Israel. This version is not the narrative your preacher taught you, but it's straight from the prophets, Paul and Jonah. Every narrative must be backed up by the words of the prophets. If not, then it's a false narrative. What is apparently is this. The dead in Moshiach, all the righteous, all the patriarchs, all the prophets and disciples will be raised from the dead to everlasting life, just like the Moshiach was. They do not need to eat of the tree of life, as they inherit the kingdom and will have everlasting life. Those that are alive of the 12 tribes of Israel and those of the living Gentiles that are grafted and are living into the 12 tribes of Israel will be gathered in the flying ships of Tarshish. Read Isaiah 60 verses 8 through 9 to Jerusalem, which is the aforementioned kingdom. They there that will eat of the fruit of the tree of life. It appears that so long as they eat of that monthly fruit from the tree of life, they will remain healthy and alive in perpetuity. There will be no more sorrow, no more tears for them. Those who rebel will be thrown out of the gates of the holy city and be denied of the fruit of the tree of life. The Gentiles working as manservants and maidservants in the holy city will have access to the leaves of the tree of life to heal them should an unhealthy event such as an injury, etc., had happened to them. See if I can find any more. And did America help Germany exterminate the Jews? And I make the case that America actually began the process. Just like NATO today began the process of bringing this world to its end. What do you mean by that, Henry? Well, in the early 1900s, the United States of America, its big shots, started spreading around this doctrine called eugenics. And as I pointed out many, many times, is they brought it to Germany, and the Germans loved it so much, but they rode the eugenics, they rode on a faster horse to eugenics. And that costed 6 million plus Jewish lives. So now NATO has been for a long, long time provoking Russia. But these are all Christian nations, you see. Christians should be living in peace and harmony, as they say. But no, the Christians have been living by the sword ever since the Council of Nicaea. Killing each other. Rape, pillage, and murder. Rape, pillage, and murder. And Yehoshua, the Moshiach, warned that a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. But a bad tree bears thorns and brambles, things that draw blood. So all of these Christian nations have been participating in the drawing of blood. Therefore, it is a bad tree. I've also warned that if Israel could not escape Jehovah's wrath because of idolatry, how in the world does Christianity think they're going to escape wrath? Let's go look at one more line. The USA and the Pharaohic spirit of Egypt. U.S. government has rejected what? The new covenant. Israel's democracy will be annulled. I go to show how democracy is a product of Greece and how a republic is a product of Rome. These types of governments will be clean out of Israel when Israel's Moshiach comes. Now the churches reject the new covenant. Israeli journalist exposes the snare the nations have laid for Israel. Well, ain't it something? I don't have any comments here. Yeah. The Gentiles laid a snare for Israel, but the Gentiles have now fallen in it, and they won't be able to get out. Now, sign of the Moshiach, is it the sign of the cross or the sign of the sun, the moon, and the stars? So in this video, I dispute Cyril's 15th chapter or 15th catechetical lecture, verse 22, concerning the sign of the cross. The sign of the Moshiach is the sign of the sun, the moon, and the stars, as written in Isaiah 24, verse 13 and 23, Joel 2 and verse 30 to 31, and as I pointed out later on, well, about a month ago maybe it was, how I found out that the sign, I believe the first sign is going to be, it says, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke in English, but the sign is, the portent is blood in the sky, blood in the earth, and timara, which is mushroom or palm-like clouds of smoke, and with it fire. That it obviously is nuclear explosions. So that is the sign of his coming. But Christians believe the sign of the cross is a sign of their false Messiah. So I point out, nowhere in Scripture does the phrase sign of the cross is mentioned. Nowhere. Okay? Once again, this is almost 2 years ago. Next phase of peace plan disaster looms again this summer. All throughout 2020. I've been warning you what this peace plan of the century was going to lead to. I told you. Can't say that nobody told you. In this particular video, I pointed out the two tribulations. The first one was upon Israel. It occurred beginning in 67, the year 67 on the Roman calendar, and it continued until 2016, Shavuot of 2016 on the Roman calendar. That's when the enumeration ended. That's when the number of the 77s ended. And I have told this audience over and over and over and over again. But they say nobody told them. The Easter warning for Christians. Easter is a classic example of Gentile Christianity committing the damnable act of replacement theology. They replaced Passover or Pesach with Easter, commemorating Ishtar, the old Babylonian goddess who conceived a son from an incestuous relationship with Nimrod, Baal, and named the child Tammuz. The T in Tammuz is the cross that all the Gentiles worship, and all the Jews, including myself, absolutely reject. Instead of drinking the wine and eating the bread of the real Moshiach Yehoshua, the Gentiles have drank of the wine of the wrath of Rome's fornication with false idols Ishtar and Tammuz on Easter. Revelation 18 verse 3, for all the Gentiles have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. As a result, the Gentiles have eaten and drank damnation to themselves, thereby casting themselves into the coming greatest tribulation, as the Gentiles are now guilty of the blood of the Moshiach because they refuse to discern 1 Corinthians 11 verse 29, for they that eat and drink unworthily eat and drink damnation to himself, because they do not discern the Moshiach's body. You see, folks, refusing to discern the difference between the pagan whore religion of Rome and the promise of Moshiach bringing salvation to literal Israel will bring damnation to all the Gentiles. And I posted remedies for coronavirus, and as you can see, YouTube removed them. See? In this video, I point out that Gentiles, Christians, label Israel's Messiah as the Antichrist. All right, so let me see if I'm finished with this here. And this is where it stops, and about where it might be headed. No one foretold this one and warned of this one and about where it might be headed. That's a lie. You are all a witness that it is a lie. And I'm a witness to the world that they refuse to listen to the truth about what could be poised to come down to us all, the threatening danger of a third world war, a nuclear war with a question mark. No, there's no question mark here. I've been warning for years there's going to be a nuclear war with a period and an exclamation point at the end of the sentence. I've used Ezekiel 39 to prove it. I used Zechariah 14 to prove it. I used Haggai 2 to prove it. And Revelation 9. That is more than 2 or 3 witnesses. All right, so let's go look at this one. And just to go to show you how delusional these preachers are. They think everything is still yet ahead. But I have told you that we are almost finished with the trumpets. I told you that a case can be made at the trumpets 1, 2, 3, and 4 have already taken place. A case could be made. Then, a couple of days ago, I made the case that the fifth trumpet sound could already have taken place during the Korean War, where helicopters that were described in the fifth trumpet sound as having teeth, the sound of many horses running into battle with a venom, a nerve agent. North Korea and Japan, and I believe even Vietnam, have accused the United States of using non-lethal nerve agents against them. Of course, the United States will deny it. Now, about the 5 months, I don't know. I'm just saying a case could be made. What I am saying is, if they start launching nukes tomorrow, don't say that the timing is off, because you'd be wrong. So he says, I can still remember as a boy, and once again on Israel Today, I don't know why in the world Sheldon Adelson's wife, his widow, is allowing this nonsense on her publication. On New Year's Eve long ago in 1980, it stood out in my mind because the speaker announced that the apocalyptic beast was possibly in place. What was it that destroyed Jerusalem in 78? It was the beast. The 10 kingdoms. I've showed you that over and over and over again, and how the man at the Vatican uprooted the Heruli, the Visigoths, and the Vandals. 3 out of the 10. That happened, was around 800, I believe it was. I'm not sure. It was around there somewhere. Might have been earlier. So, this preacher says he had said this was a possible fulfillment of the apocalyptic prophecy of the 10-horned beast in a New Testament book of Revelation 13 verse 1. Wow, that grabbed my attention. Boy, that was so past tense. Many generations went by. Today, instead of 10, the EU now has 25 members. Concern that the EU will now any day ignite the events of the apocalypse has subsided, because they didn't read the prophets. They didn't connect the dots. They push everything into the future when many of these things already happened. When the great rebellion, the great Jewish rebellion that occurred because Nero the man who made himself as a god placed an image in the temple claiming that he was, as they say, the greatest. And of course the Jews summarily threw that image out, but it was placed in all the synagogues in the entire realm of Rome. And who was this Roman emperor who did this? Who was this man of sin? It was Caligula. The Christian preachers claim that the Antichrist, as they say, is yet to come. But Jonah, in very short time ago in one of my videos. Yonah, in 2nd Yonah, said that anti-Moshiach is already here. In fact, there are multiples. And he was right. And people would follow after them, after the man in Rome and the Vatican. And the reason why they would follow after him is because they never were of us to begin with. Yes, folks, I told you. I used the scripture to tell you. I did my best to unravel the false translation of King James Version to tell you what was really going on. Tell you what the prophets really said. To tell you what Yehoshua, the real Moshiach, really said. That when the time of the Gentiles comes to the end, look, Luke, I got it memorized, folks. And you should too. Luke 21. When the time of the Gentiles comes to the end, that's when the great tribulation upon the Gentiles begins. It says it right here in Luke 21. So this whole thing right here, verse 20, verse 24, is the tribulation upon the Jews, upon Jerusalem. The Christians say this is yet to happen. That is a delusion. A delusion is something that you know is false, but you believe it anyway. And how do they know it's false? Because your own history books showed you that this was Titus's destruction of Jerusalem in 70, the year 70 CE, was the destruction of Jerusalem. That is talking about right here. And they did fall by the edge of the sword. Your history books tell you this. But your preachers tell you differently. And they were led away captive into all the Gentiles. They were into all the Gentiles. Your history books tell you this. Reality tells you this, but your preacher tells you something different. And Jerusalem was and still is being trodden down by the Gentiles. You should have known the time of your visitation, O Gentile. In 2016, you should have known. But it wasn't like nobody told you. I did. I told you that. I did the math for you while you listened to Cyril, the Catholic. I showed it to you. I proved it to you. I proved to you that the 62 sevens was from Nehemiah's declaration to the king of Persia that the Straitened Wall was finished. I told you over and over again that the 1 week of Daniel 9 and verse 27 was the great war to destroy Jerusalem. I told you that. And it began in 67 and ended in 74. I told you that. I also told you that the last 7 sevens from the proclamation, from the call to rebuild Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince, The clock started ticking in June of 1967, when General Shlomo Goren said these words in Hebrew. Today in Jerusalem, like the Jerusalem of old, rebuild! And 7 sevens ended in Shavuot 2016, thereby ending the time of the Gentiles. Until the time of the Gentiles is complete, finished, ended. And then what happens next? I told you. There shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth. Distress, anxiety, anguish. And that is tribulation, folks. Sunoke is tribulation upon the Gentiles. Upon the Gentiles. I told you. I also told you. And you know that these signs, that the sign, what was that sign? The sign in Joel 2? Blood in the sky, blood in the earth. Fire and timara of smoke. Palm-like columns of smoke. And what happens then? Men's heart failing for fear and for looking after these things which are coming upon the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. These nuclear weapons against each other are going to be answered with the powers of heaven being shaken. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with the power and great glory. And when you see these things come to pass, he is telling the 12 apostles representing the 12 tribes of Israel these things. Then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. Whose redemption? Whose? Paul tells you exactly whose redemption. Let us go to Romans 11. In verse 25, speaking to the Romans. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you, Romans, should be wise in your own conceits, that partial blindness happened to Israel until the fullness, the filling up, the completing, or the time of the Gentiles has ended. So who are the elect that are going to be gathered? And so all Israel shall be saved, because it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away unholiness from Jacob. Because this is my new covenant. Yes, new covenant. You see, Yehoshua's covenant, or the covenant that Jehovah gave to Yehoshua, is the new covenant. So this is the new covenant. You cannot say that this is the covenant of Moses. No, no, no. If he's going to send the Redeemer out of Zion to turn away unholiness from Jacob, that is the new covenant written about in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. When I will take away their sins. He's going to take away their sins. There's no qualifier here. Now you Romans, concerning the gospel, they might be enemies for your sakes, but concerning the election, they are the elect. They are the fathers, they are the patriarchs' sakes concerning the election. So when you read this, gather the elect my internet's getting worse and worse. I'll probably have to close here. Alright, so this is coming from the same not same book, chapter, and verse, but from the same witnessing. Alright? So immediately after the tribulation of those days, that's Israel's tribulation, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the sky. The powers of heaven shall be shaken, and there shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in the sky. What was the sign of the Son of Man? It's not the cross. Then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man in the cloud of the sky with power and great glory. And he shall send his messengers, which I now believe are the two witnesses, with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect. They shall gather together his electos, or ekloge. Alright? His elect. Electos, select by implication, and ekloge, a divine selection. It's essentially the same meaning. They are chosen. Paul is saying that they are chosen for the beloved patriarch's sakes, because the gifts and calling of Jehovah, not God, cannot be repented of, cannot be changed, no matter what you Christians say. See, Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, are the elect no matter what you Christians say. And he warned you, Gentiles. He said, do not boast against the branches, because if you boast, you don't bear the root, but the root bears you. So what he's essentially saying is, if you boast against the branches, you are boasting against the root. Well, if boasting against the branches is boasting against the root, then what is continual genocide of the branches over the past 2 millennia? It is genociding the root, genociding the Messiah himself. And if the branches were broken off, you might say the branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. Well, you Christians today, you don't want to be grafted in. You want to replace Israel, just like Cain wanted to replace Abel. Because of unbelief they were broken off, and you stand by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear, because if Elohim did not spare the natural branches of that generation, take heed lest ye also spare not you in the last generation. Since you genocided the Jews over and over and over again, he's going to take your nuclear weapons force you to put it to your head, O Gentile Christians, and pull the trigger. Yep. And he's going to do that to you through your own delusions. See if I can find it. Hold on. Second Thessalonians 2, verse 12. As I have many times showed this to you before, this was talking about, now this, Jesus, Paul never used the word Jesus. He used the word Yehoshua. And not Krios, not Christos, but Moshiach. And by gathering together unto him, that you be not so soon shaken in mind, or be troubled neither by spirit nor by word, or by letter, even if any of us, as if the day of Moshiach is at hand. He's saying, no, it's not. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come not a falling away, but a rebellion. The great Jewish revolt. And why did this Jewish revolt occur? Because of that man of sin, Caligula, I just mentioned. The son of destruction, by his actions. His actions led to destruction of Jerusalem by Titus. Why? He opposed and exalted himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped. He did. It was Caligula. Your history books prove that's the case. So that he, as a god, sits in the temple of God, as they say. What he did was he made a graven image of Zeus and had that placed inside the temple, just like Antiochus IV did. He set the stage in motion for the man at the Vatican, beginning with him, to be a curse. All right? The man at the Vatican is now a curse. Don't you remember I was with you? I told you these things? And now you know. Hold back that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity is already at work. It's happening right now, he said. Jonah said anti-Moshiach is here right now. Only who just now holds back until he becomes or comes from the midst. It wasn't his turn yet to be emperor. And then shall that wickedness be revealed. The enemy of Jerusalem be revealed. See? That lawless, not the lawless one, that lawlessness, that wickedness be revealed, be uncovered. It was uncovered to the Jews, whom the Moshiach will consume with the spirit out of his mouth, and shall destroy with the appearance of his coming. even him whose working is after Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. In other words, lying powers, lying wonders, including the fire coming down from heaven. Fakery by the Orthodox Church every year on, they call it Holy Saturday, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth that I have been pointing out to each and every one of you listening, and to the whole world. Whether the world wants to listen or not, that's their fault if they don't. The love of the truth, that they might be saved. So the Gentiles, the love of the truth is going to save you. Now, because they did not love the truth, here comes the word delusion, folks. For this cause, Jehovah will send them strong delusion, so that they might believe the lie. What is the lie? The lie is that their Jesus Christ replaced Yehoshua the Moshiach. That's the lie. So that they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. These weapons of war and nukes, nuclear power, all of that is pleasure in unrighteousness. Yes, folks, the lights are going to be turned off, as I said 2 years ago, on Western civilization. Your nuclear power plants are going to blow up, become useless. You're going to launch your nukes at each other to destroy each other. In the name of Jesus, you'll do it. Just like you tried to genocide the Jews in the name of Jesus. That false name is going to kill you. Yehoshua, that name will give you life. You have been warned. You have been duly warned. The whole world has been duly warned. I am a witness against this world. I knew they were going to reject the truth. But my, oh my, infuriated me this morning to see that article on, of all places, Israel Today.